Diary, good morning. It's the early hours of the 28th of September 2014 and hello to darling Agatha. And back to me, only me. Are we in focus, darling? So, hello from just into France. We are just on the first day of our holiday here, and I thought I'd make a little report just into the hours of Sunday the 28th. The first day of our holiday started on Saturday the 27th, and it's part of our continued campervan testing holiday slash adventure. And firstly, I'm trying to think of what the difference between a holiday and an adventure is. I think a holiday is where everything happens automatically and someone else does all the work, and an adventure is what we're having, which means we've got to do all the work. So we started off a little bit before 2 o'clock in our home in Lausanne, Vaud, Switzerland, where we went up to B&W Camping to pick up a camper van that we previously booked. Now, we've had a previous holiday in England where we hired a coach-built motorhome, and this is a test of a van conversion motorhome, which is a thinner type of motorhome, and perhaps a less plush type. But we thought we'd give it a go because we'd heard that vans were easier to drive and perhaps quieter and structurally more sound. When on the downside is that to the inside a van you get smaller facilities, less plush facilities, and probably the bathroom will have a shower with a shower curtain, which we're not really keen on. Anyway, we thought we'd give it a go, and we booked this van a month ago now, which is short in Swiss terms, but we surveyed the different things that we could do, and the local B&W Camping, which is just about 20 minutes away from us, north of us, does have this camper van. So we picked up the van, we were early, so that meant that we actually got back from B&W at about, I'd say about 2 or 3 o'clock. So we were kind of an hour ahead of schedule. We thought, oh, this is going to be really easy. We're going to get away. And Agatha had made a nice plan where we'd get to Decathlon this evening, and we'd pick up some food in the supermarket, and then we'd get to a campsite in the evening, about 8 or 9 o'clock. So I thought, oh, this is going to be easy. So we packed the van full of clothes, and we thought, oh, this is all going very well. And then the last thing we had to do was and we planned it to be last. Oh, by the way, cheers. This is keeping me sane at the moment. Is to pack the bicycles on the back of the van. Now, this is a small van, and so it doesn't have its own dedicated garage where you can put the bicycles. They go on the back of the van. And that's where I wouldn't say trouble, it's just that we've never really done this before, and it was a lot more convoluted than we expected. There's a tool rack, T-H-U-L-E, tool bicycle rack on the back of the van. You can take 2 bicycles, but try as we might, we couldn't actually get 2 bicycles on there. The first problem we had was that when we put the 2 bicycles on there, we put the first bicycle on, which was difficult enough, the second bicycle was kind of like pushed away. So the first bicycle was sort of here, and the second bicycle would be here, which would be no good at all. So that wasn't good. So we went about by whittling different parts of the tool frame, which was quite flexible. At one point we got one of the nuts stuck and we just couldn't get it undone, and we had to get some WD-40. We kept on having to make trips back to the house and back to our cave to get tools and WD-40 and then some tissues and all sorts of things. And each time we went back, by the way, we'd set up our security system at home. So each time we went back in the house, we had to kind of like unset the security system and reset it up as we left. So it was a bit of a palaver. So to cut a long story short, after it felt like about 2 hours, maybe it was slightly less, we managed to get the 2 bicycles on the bicycle rack behind the van. And we also then had to put a cover over the bicycles, which didn't work as well as we'd expected, because the bicycles are clamped like this, and so the cover can only go down so far on the back side closest to the van. Anyway, we got the cover on eventually, And finally we were going to set off. Now the only people that benefited through this 2-hour backwards and forwards traipsing into the apartment and the cave were probably our local cats, because every time we visited back and forth they were looking around thinking, what are these idiots doing here? So they got lots of food. Anyway, so we finally set off. The plan was to go on the motorway to Geneva and then continue to Annecy. Now, of course, we were now 2 hours late, so instead of getting there at well before 8 o'clock, we got there at about 8:30. Now, luckily, we checked, and the supermarket closed at 9, which was an hour later than we expected. So we rushed in, got as many small food items as we can, not including the wine, by the way, because that was brought from home as an emergency situation. And we found we couldn't get into the car park because the car park entrance was too low. So anyway, we parked around the corner, rushed into the car park, got a few food items, including a Libara phone sim. Now the orange phone shop, of course, had just closed at 8 o'clock, and we'd planned to get an orange phone sim. And getting a phone sim was like critically important, because without internet access, we can't book campsites, nor can we find our way around the place. So it's critically important that we have internet access. So we got this Libara sim, which wasn't the one we had chosen. Got back to the van, and although we put it in, and then we found we had to activate the sim. And activating the sim is either done via the internet, which also we didn't have, or you can phone. And we phoned, and it said, "Thanks for calling Libara. We close at 8 o'clock. Come back another day." So that didn't work too well. So then we had this brilliant brainwave, which was we were going to go back into the supermarket complex, go to McDonald's, see if they got free internet, which they did have, and via the free internet we're going to go onto the internet and then activate the sim. So we did all of that, activated the sim, checked that it worked for phone calls, and then checked the internet, and still didn't work. So we kind of gave up. We did all we could. We've got the sim in there. We've got the sim working for phone calls, and we just gave up with the internet so far. So we've now followed that with about an hour's driving. We've got to this place in just into France. It's called Le Bourget du Lac, and then luckily we found that although we can't get into the campsite because it's all shut down, we sat outside the campsite, and we've got this free internet which is valid for 4 hours. So we've logged onto the free internet and found that the Libara internet has a different APN for its internet, and you have to set it to fr.libara.mobi, so fr.libara.mobi, and put in the username of WAP, and no password, and then, believe it or not, the internet's going to work. And I believe it has worked, because I've gone on to Weather Pro and we've got weather. So what's the takeout for today? The takeout for today is putting bicycles on the back of a camper van is a lot more complicated than we ever thought it would be. Maybe in the future days it's going to be easier, but today it was a nightmare. It took about 2 hours, and by the way, we had to take the seats off both bicycles to get everything close enough so we could mount them. Hopefully it will get easy with practice. Secondly, internet is a very powerful facility, and when you haven't got it, things aren't so good. And thirdly, it'd be nicer if the supermarket's open later, but we're not dissing them too much, because I think 9 o'clock is later than it is in Switzerland. So we're pleased that Carrefour was open till 9. And finally, we're even luckier that we brought the wine, because without the wine I think we'd be in a grimmer mood. So it's good night from me, and it is good night from the darling wife. Good night for now, and we'll speak to you soon.